Welcome back. If you're just joining us, you're watching the News at 10 on Channels Television. A reminder of our top stories. Federal High Court fines police 12.5 million naira for unlawful arrest and detention of Nigerian Peace Corps officials in Abuja. High Court in Lagos orders interim forfeiture of Ikoyi flat where 13 billion naira was found by the EFCC in April. Living condition of students at Command Secondary School in Ibadan under the spotlight on our big story tonight. And Saudi government says 201 persons are held in its anti-graft crackdown. More than $100 billion is believed to have been embezzled in recent decades. Now, for more on our top stories and others, please visit our website, channelstv.com and youtube.com/channelsweb. Also, please log on to m.channelstv.com to watch us on your mobile device or download the Channels TV app for Android, iOS, and Windows devices from their respective stores. The Channels TV and Channels 24 app will give you access to news and updates. You'll also have access to the Eyewitness feature with which you can share those pictures, videos, or news of happenings around you. Just install the app, then tap and swipe to reveal the menu and follow the instructions. Now, here are some of the pictures you sent to our Eyewitness portal. Let's begin with this image showing the flooded entrance to a post office in the Efro area of Warri in Delta State. Our Eyewitness reporter says that's the only access to the office, and it's been a headache for workers and customers to access. Still in Delta State is this photo showing a bad road which links Achala Ibusa to Okolosi layout in Asaba. Our Eyewitness is calling on the state government for help. Our next picture shows the bad state of the Ota Ifo Express Road in Ogun State. Our Eyewitness reporter claims the bad road causes a constant gridlock and wants something done about it. Our last picture tonight is from the Lagos-Abeokuta Expressway showing a road construction project. Our Eyewitness reporter says the project was awarded to an experienced contractor to create a BRT lane on a road that was not wide enough in the first instance. The road has been reduced to one lane in some areas and ridiculed with too many potholes, thereby causing a great nightmare to the masses. Thank you for sending in those pictures, and please keep them coming. Now let's get some perspective on the 2018 budget proposal by the President. I'm now being joined live from our Abuja studios by our microeconomic policy analyst, Professor Ken Ife. Professor, thank you so much for joining us on the News at 10.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
Now, do you think the macroeconomic environment that is presently in place is conducive for the realization of the broad policy thrust of the current budget 2017 and the proposed budget 2018?
I think so. To be very honest with you, it was a very robust budget presentation, and I've never felt so confident about the economic and political future of our country. And to begin with, everything we've asked of the government, they have actually done. First, we said we're in recession, but there's no plan to get out of recession. In February this year, they produced an economic growth and recovery plan. Then I went on many occasions and said, look, you've got 6 pillars, you've got 60 policy action areas. What are the indicators? Where are the outputs? How do you connect this to the budget? Now, these have been captured in the budget. And what you now saw was the president really now the evidence base for all this optimism. We've seen actions on the first of all, on the macroeconomic stability. Look at the fundamentals. $45 benchmark price for oil, when the oil is going at $62 or more, means that we have a headroom of about $17. And that means there's going to be accretion to excess crude account, and that means that the foreign reserve is going to benefit, and that means that even the sovereign wealth fund might actually get more money, and it's looking inwards, which means more capital budgets are going to be funded by sovereign wealth fund. They also promised in that plan is so central to this budget, and you can see some of them. You saw the actions on agriculture. Good records of delivery from the CBN Anchor Borrowers program. In 1 year, you got 2 million more rice being produced, and many more items are on target. Then you come to power. The major issue in power has actually been resolved. You not only that you have about 7,000 megawatts of transmission capacity, which is now in excess of distribution capacity. But the real crux was when I looked at the financial statement of MBET in August last year. I saw that 3 gigawatt hour valued at 39 billion naira was generated, and they only received 9.3 billion, which is 24%. Now, that could not continue. Nobody is going to invest in the power sector. But now you have liquidity returned to the MBET with over 780 billion, which means that they have enough money to pay for any power that is being generated. That is the precondition for capital to flow into the power sector. Now, I know people are saying that, why do you give 5
Professor, I have to jump in here and ask. Some people have said much of what you've said, but they also ask the question that already quite a huge chunk of our revenue goes into debt servicing. Now, the 2018 budget proposal also has a large element that is to be borrowed, even though government talks about restructuring its debt portfolio. So in view of this robust, this positive picture you've painted, how does that fit into it?
Let's talk about the debt. Oh, that's all right. Let's talk about the debt service. Yes, earlier this year, well, about 3 months ago, we nearly hit a red line, which was because there's a low revenue inflow, and the outgoing was, the percentage was almost at 8%. So why is approaching a red line of 40%? The fact of this, within the plan, the ERPG plan, there is a rebalancing of the foreign and domestic debt, quite sensibly, because it's now going to move from nearly 79%, the domestic, down to 60%, while the 19% of the external debt will go up to 40%. Now, that rebalancing, from the testimony of the finance minister, is going to produce a saving of about 168 billion naira. Now, that is not a joke. Then secondly, if you look at the debt ratio, the servicing to GDP is 1.7%. Our fiscal responsibility says 3%, and that went far below 3%. You look at the total debt to GDP is about 19 trillion. That is so low compared to the headroom. We have a headroom of 40%. And even, let me tell you, sir, in Nigeria, even at where we are, about 17 to 18% of our GDP, UK is, just on external alone, is 81%, France 87%, Japan 100%, America 100%, and most of the other European countries, Greece, Ireland, they are 150%. So we're nowhere, and if you look at UK alone, if you add the local domestic debt and external debt, is 500%. So I think we've got to recognize that, yes, there are issues. The issues actually occur because we have a low tax base of 6% compared to most neighbors in Africa that are between 18 to 24%. If only that will increase, then you will find out that the fiscal stress is unlikely to happen. But again, the government is addressing that. It's now using voluntary assessment to draw more people into the tax net. And then gradually they will come to, maybe after 2 or 3 years, when they look at it, then you begin to look at what the computer system tells you or compares. But the thing is that they are now gradually moving into bringing many of the people in the informal economy back into the formal economy, by letting people do that. If we can borrow the example of Lagos State, where technology is driving the revenue, then people can go and make a declaration, get their tax clearance, get their receipts, and then they go and remove all these middlemen who are collecting tax and pocketing half of the money. So we're going to have to leave it
there, Professor Ken Ife. I want to thank you so much for joining us on the News10 with your perspective on the 2018 budget. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Fine.
The President today inaugurated the Armed Forces Council at the State House in Abuja in line with the laws of the land. The Council is responsible for all matters that concern the armed forces, including ratification of national defense policy and the harmonized terms and conditions of service of armed personnel 2017 as revised. The last time the Council met was in July 2014. Its members include the Chief of Army Staff, the Minister of Defense, and the Permanent Secretary from the Ministry of Defense, amongst others.
Council meeting that was done was in 2014. It reviewed terms and conditions of service for officers and soldiers, reviewed some of the retirement benefit for officers and soldiers, including defense policy, which has been obsolete since 2006. We reviewed it and discussed and reached a final conclusion on them.
Moving on to politics, although the All Progressives Congress recently said the president would not get an automatic ticket to contest the 2019 election, the governor of Ebonyi State, Mr. Dave Umahi, has a different opinion. He wants President Muhammadu Buhari to recontest for presidency in 2019, as he also plans to seek re-election as the governor of Ebonyi State. Mr. Umahi, who is from a PDP-controlled state, told State House correspondents in Abuja that President Buhari will soon visit Ebonyi State to inaugurate projects executed by his administration in the state. And from there, we're moving on to Abuja, where there are more political stories. Standing by now with Ibrahim Adra. Hi, Ibrahim.
Many thanks indeed, Ladi. Now, some youths in Anambra State have staged a protest in Awka, the state capital, and they are calling for credible polls ahead of next weekend's governorship elections. Their march follows a report that some persons were caught with sensitive materials belonging to the Independent National Electoral Commission. Some of the protesters are appealing to political parties, INEC and voters to help ensure a smooth electoral process. Now, the All Progressive Congress has denied allegations that the party is planning to rig the Anambra governorship election through the use of soldiers and other security agencies. Rather, the National Publicity Secretary of the party, Mr. Bolaji Abdullahi, insists the party is committed to ensuring it wins the election on a free and fair platform. He challenged persons spreading the rumor of an alleged plan by the party to rig election to report to appropriate security agencies in order to promote transparency.
If anybody tells you that the party is planning to use soldiers, civil defense, air force, or whatever to do something in there, then tell the person to provide evidence. We plan to win the Anambra election fair and square, and if you are following the campaign going on, you will know the kind of impact that our candidate is making. So the incumbent naturally will be jittery. So and when the candidate is jittery, the first thing to do is to turn around and begin to accuse the ruling party of plan to rig or whatever. We are not going to rig election. We have won elections since we came into power as a national party, as a ruling party. We have won elections. We have lost elections, right? We lost the election in Osun. If we had soldiers and police or whatever to mobilize to rig the election, why didn't we do it? Right? We've lost a couple of House of Representative elections, a couple of Senate elections. So allegations that we are planning to rig election does not arise at all, does not hold any water, unless someone has a credible evidence to show that, okay, we know that this is what we are planning to do. But to make this kind of wild allegation without substance is not something that we should dwell on too much. So thank you.
And when News10 returns, Cement Company of Northern Nigeria PLC declares 1.25 billion naira profit after tax for 2016 fiscal year. And this is despite turbulent operating environment. More details now, business news. Do join us again.